Hey everyone, what's going on? Before I really even get into this video, I just want to make it clear that I'm not making this video to cause problems, to call anybody a shill, to call anybody an agent of the cabal, anything of the sort. I'm simply just trying to, open people's minds to a deeper perspective of esoteric knowledge with emphasis on, gematria knowledge. There just seems to be too many people who are using this knowledge in such a simplistic way that they're missing out on this wider perspective. And if they learned this wider perspective, it would really change their belief and open their mind at least to this greater thing that exists with this knowledge. And, case in point, every time somebody decodes a news story, they see a certain number and they already have this preconceived notion that that number is something associated with the cabal. And that doesn't necessarily have to be the truth, Say they see the number 47. The story has nothing to do with the president, the White House, whatever, but they'll write, oh yeah, that definitely means president, White House, government, Republican, Democrat. Even if it has absolutely, no real, the story's not about any of that. And sure, there is a pattern with all of that, but that doesn't mean that every time you see a 47, that's what it means. That 47 could have some meaning that is important to something else that happened in your life recently, or, there's other ways to look at this knowledge. It doesn't always just mean that the cabal wrote this story. And a lot of people, even the 47, a lot of people always say, oh yeah, there's 47 degrees on the Freemason square and compass or whatever. That's not even true. If you look at multiple pictures of the Freemason square and compass, lots of them are not set at 47 degrees. A lot of them are around 50 something, and there's 60-degree ones. There's really no set angle. But once again, this is something that somebody told Zach a long time ago and he ran with it. And I think there's a reason for that because of influence. But, even the one in his book, the picture in his book, Letters and Numbers, it's not even set at 47 degrees. If you get a protractor out and measure it, it's not 47 degrees. It's bigger than 47 degrees. So when you take away that piece, it really does take a lot away. There's still a pattern with all these things. And sure, there's the Freemason headquarters in Washington, D.C. with the 33 pillars outside and so on. And Washington, D.C. is where the Catholic colony was founded and stuff like that. But there's no doubt at some level these things are very important, but the point I'm making is that not every time there's a 47 does it have to mean the Freemason square and compass or president, White House. There could be other things that are absolutely important to it. Even like Sandy Hook, right? Sandy Hook was all about 112, right? Adam Lanza, they told us he weighed 112 pounds and his birthday was in a non-leap year on the 112th day of the year, and in Gematria, if you write out Sandy Hook, it equals 112, and his initials A and L, A the first letter, L the 12th, 112. But that doesn't just necessarily prove that because of that it's because the Jesuits operate in 112 countries. There might be somebody in the world who has an aunt named Sandy who got her hand cut off and now has a hook for a hand, right? And, Sandy Hook. And that person might look up their Aunt Sandy, and her name might equal 112. And maybe Sandy Hook happened 112 days after her birthday. And maybe she was from Boston and ran marathons. And so you were watching for the Boston Marathon, and then look what happened at the Boston Marathon, right? All because of something that happened in your own life. And these are the type of things that I am continually doing over and over and over. And I'm not even connecting any of the numbers that I'm following to a cabal, yet things are still showing up, Recently I was talking about Joey Lawrence, because of synchronicity and whatever. And then a couple days later, Joey Lawrence was in the news for getting married. And it's kind of like, it had nothing to do with the cabal or anything. But who was talking about Joey Lawrence, the actor, in 2022? Nobody. But I had weird synchronicity. It made me think that Joey Lawrence might be important. Joey Lawrence in the news, talk about Sharon Osbourne, then the next day Ozzy Osbourne gets coronavirus. Talked about how I had synchronicity with the Corn and Orgy and the Family Values Tour. And then like a week later, the lady Tracy Braxton from famous for the show Family Values dies, and she dies all connected to the same exact numbers that I was talking about in my post, you know? Just over and over and over, just countless things that I've talked about, never once connected anything to the cabal or numbers that connect that, but yet I'm still figuring out these patterns that are existing within the media. Even like a really important one, like the Wendy Williams one, back on February 22nd at 2:22 in the morning on 2/22/22, I randomly was watching the movie He's All That on Netflix, and at the time I was following this big theme with the word Cameron and also a horse theme. And I was watching that movie, and all of a sudden I heard the word Cameron, and I looked up at the clock, and it was 2:22 in the morning on 2/22/22, and I was like, and then later on in the movie, you find out that the main character, Cameron, he loves horses and he rides horses in the movie and stuff. It's like, what are the odds? A Cameron theme and a horse theme, and they all come together by me randomly watching this movie on Netflix while I'm trying to go to bed. And I started looking more into that film because the original one, the theme song was called Kiss Me. So I looked into that and I saw that the band New Found Glory had remade that song. And there was also some other things around that time that were telling me to look back at the Stoneman Douglas stuff that I had documented about. And that involved New Found Glory and also Wendy Williams. And I have another song that I wrote where one of the lyrics is, Wendy Williams looks like a horse. So I was like, I bet you Wendy Williams is going to be important. There's something important to Wendy Williams. And literally just hours later that day, one of the headline stories on CNN was that the Wendy Williams show was getting canceled, right? Absolutely nothing to do with the cabal. Never connected it once to the cabal, but Wendy Williams was in the news. And if you looked up the story, you'd see that the story was 219 days after her birthday. And 219 was this big number I was following with a theme with horses, right? So what are the odds it was 219 days after her birthday? And that horse theme had a lot to do with the Mandela effect and Nelson Mandela. And Wendy Williams' birthday, July 18th, just so happens to be the same day that Nelson Mandela was born. So I never connected it once to anything to do with the cabal. But if somebody else was not following that same pattern and they just randomly clicked on this Wendy Williams story, what they would do is say, well, she was born on July 18th, 18/7, right? 187. And in Gematria, Society of Jesus equals 187, right? And then they would see this 219 days after her birthday, and they would say, well, Roman Catholic equals 219. So they'd say, oh, this is definitely a story connected to the Jesuits. But the way I'm looking at it, it's not connected to the Jesuits whatsoever, you know? So Roman Catholic 219 or birthday 18/7, like Society of Jesus. And then they'd probably go even further and say Wendy Williams equals 74 and 61, like how Jesus equals 74, cross 74. You know, Jesus equals 61, cross 61, God 61, church 61, Christian 61, sin 61, Christmas 61. They say, oh yeah, definitely connected to the Jesuits. And I'm saying, well, it's interesting, you know, maybe it is connected to the Jesuits, but it's also connected to my horse theme that has nothing to do with the Jesuits. So you have to look at this in a different perspective. Sure, it's connected to the Jesuits, but, you know, it's kind of just the foundation to understand a pattern, you know. I'm understanding it by following patterns in my life and these other things. That's my foundation of understanding the pattern. And other people are understanding the pattern by blaming it all on a cabal and connecting it all to this cabal, which doesn't necessarily mean it's not true that it connects, but it doesn't necessarily prove that the cabal is behind the story, purposely coding it to Roman Catholic and whatever else. Hopefully that makes sense. And once again, that doesn't mean that I don't think that they are purposely coding stories, you know, because part of what they're doing is they're creating synchronicities, right? They're making stories that are related, and they are, I really think they are using certain numbers at certain times, creating some type of magic that kind of rules over the world, you know. But, you know, chaos magic is creating synchronicities and so on to fit this narrative. But there's just so much more outside of this that you really need to pay attention to. And it really opens up a lot of questions within this knowledge. If everything is just fate, if everything is supposed to be this way, if we live in a matrix, if we, possibly we're just being influenced, on certain things. Maybe it is some cabal that's ruling the world somehow, some way, and, I do agree that there is a cabal. There is absolutely something deeper that is somehow, it just seems that there's something bigger. Whether it's not even humans, maybe it's AI, maybe it's aliens, demons, whatever, maybe it's the Jesuits. I really don't think so, though. I truly think that the bigger layer of this is something that wants us to believe that it's all the Jesuits and the Freemasons and the Jews and so on, because, all throughout history, there have been examples of how they've kind of programmed our minds to believe this, And think about like the late 90s and to the early 2000s. And, you had like the death of Tupac that was, that's really why I got into this information, was when Tupac died. My friend gave this speech in high school about how he died by the number 7. And my mind was blown. I was like, that is some crazy stuff, whatever it was, He died like 7 days after getting shot 7 times, and he died at like 4:03 or something. 4 + 3 7. Died at age 25. 2 + 5 7. And then his last album was The Dawn Kill Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory, right? And it's funny because that friend who gave that speech, actually his name equals 74, just like Tupac. I'll type it out really quick. But Clint Elliott, his name equals 74. Just like how Tupac equals 74. And he really inspired me. I don't even know if he follows, I don't think he even follows this knowledge anymore, but he was a huge fan of Tupac back in the day. But, just think about Tupac's album called Kill Illuminati, right? The words kill and Illuminati within there. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. But then we got things like Kurt Cobain and conspiracies and stuff that I started looking into. And, then 9/11 happened on 9/11. Then shortly after that, they came out with the movie The Da Vinci Code, right? Once again, telling us all of these things. And, think about George Carlin. Think about the movie Zeitgeist. Then at one point, there's really being all over the truth community on YouTube. I mean, everywhere. Everyone could find this, where Tim Russert called out, George Bush and John Kerry and so on. And it was all about the number 322 and Skull and Bones. So once again, you knew something was important to numbers. But look at these Francis Bacon ciphers that I've been saying are really important. Tim Russert equals 322. Supposedly died on the day leaving 201 days in the year. If you write out Skull and Bones, it equals 201 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. There's a lot more you can go into with these ciphers too, like how 9/11 happened on the 254th day of the year and a whole bunch more. But, Tim Russert was also on the show called Meet the Press. That equals 223. He supposedly died at 223. The time was 223, right? It's the reflection of 322. So, and oddly enough, he's from Buffalo, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, because the big thing is this Zach going to Buffalo and Zach going to Oklahoma City. All of these things happened by a code, right? Stuff I've been talking about forever. But you also had guys like Bill Cooper, Jordan Maxwell, Alex Jones, so on. They're all like influencing you and telling you everything is the Freemasons, telling you that the Catholic Church and the Jesuits are important. Maybe not so much Alex Jones, but like Bill Cooper, if you look, Sam's been showing me a whole bunch of his really old stuff, and he talked about all of this stuff years ago. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, I don't know. I think that he is some type of an agent. That's just my opinion. And same with Jordan Maxwell. Alex Jones, I think, is an obvious, agent of some sort. But maybe not. Maybe these people were just influenced to have these ideas and beliefs, and then they started putting them out there. Because to me, it just seems that this whole truth community, 9/11 was a big catalyst to create a culture of conspiracy theorists. And then they have just kept building on this, right? And then they've put out Flat Earth and so on. And, I don't know. I'm not disagreeing with anything. I'm not telling you what to believe or whatever, but there is an obvious culture of conspiracy. Eustace Mullins and the Jews. I mean, everybody knows in the truth community, everybody has always been taught it's the Jews, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, right? And I just think it's way bigger than that. I think that something wants us to believe that. They created this conspiracy movement, Gematria included, and because they already knew what was going to happen and they kind of influenced it and built it along the way. And now they just control it. You know what I mean? And they know how to rule over people's minds. You know, Abraham Lincoln, why would Abraham Lincoln write a letter saying that the Jesuits were responsible for the Civil War? And, you know, Abraham Lincoln equals 84. The word Jesuit equals 84. The Civil War began in the 84th year of the United States. United States of America equals 84. And he wrote that letter on June 8th, which is 8 months and 4 days before his birthday, like 84, right? Why would he write a letter exposing the Jesuits, all synced to the gematria of the Jesuits, if, you know, it seems like they influenced you to want to believe this about the Jesuits? And that also comes from this guy like Charles Chiniquy's book, CC, like Catholic Church, right? Like Cecil Calvert, the guy who, you know, founded the Catholic colony, CC, Christopher Columbus. CC is also 33, this really important number. So, you know, maybe Abraham Lincoln didn't even really write that letter, but it's interesting that that would even be something that is told within the truth community. And then it's coded to the teeth to them same numbers. So you know that at some point they want you to believe that it's all of these things. And I just think that it's something else that wants you to think that. And, you know, that doesn't mean that at some level these groups are important. You know, it doesn't mean that maybe there is, you know, they're connected and whatever. Because obviously they know about the knowledge, right? They wouldn't have the 33 pillars that are 33 feet tall outside of the Freemason headquarters where you have to be a 33-degree member to get in and so on, right? They wouldn't do all of that if they didn't know about the knowledge, but I just think that it's something, they're smaller pieces to the bigger thing. And I really think that if we don't understand the way that this world works and why things exist in our own lives this way, we're never going to solve the real problem. You know, it doesn't matter. We can go overthrow the Jesuits, the Catholic Church, the Freemasons, whatever, kill every single person we think is bad, but all of that's going to happen by a code, and all of that's everything after that's going to happen. So we need to figure out more about this knowledge, you know, before we can really change anything, or, you know, we need to understand why the world works this way. Maybe there's a reason that it does work this way, and all of these things that we think are bad are actually somehow doing some type of good things that we just, you know, aren't ready to understand, right? But that being said, I'm all for doing these rallies, like going to Oklahoma City, going to, you know, Buffalo, educating people on the knowledge, trying to wake people up, keeping it simple. I understand all of this, right? I'm all for this because that's, you know, eventually maybe somehow we'll stumble upon, you know, new information by having more minds thinking about it, and we'll figure out more of what's going on in the world, the real truth. But at the same time, all of these things are happening by this code, and a lot of people are just completely dismissing that these things are going on because they're so hung up on blaming every single thing on the cabal when it's not necessarily true. Although, in saying all of this, it is, what I'm going to talk about here in a second, it's interesting because I really do think that Zach's trip to, you know, the OKC rally, and now he's going to Buffalo on May 21st and 22nd. I really do think that these were somehow influenced, and they were all just purposely, you know, coded on purpose. You know, doesn't mean that he is part of it, but he's connected to what is going on here, and it definitely seems like they influenced him to do a lot of these things. Because if you go back to January, we got that story about the Texas synagogue hostage situation on January 15th. And that reminded us of, you know, Waco, Texas. And then Waco was connected to the Oklahoma City bombing and so on. And then on January 16th, the next day, Zach made this video talking about the Oklahoma City bombing and so on, and how it was all synced up to the number 33 and the numbers 116, such as David Koresh equaling 116 and Timothy McVeigh dying on 11/6, and notice January 16th like 116. So it kind of influenced him to get that thought into his head about Oklahoma City. And then on January 19th, Zach decided to make a video talking about how he's going to have a rally in Oklahoma City. And that really also happened because we got this story about a man who rescued 5 people during the Oklahoma City bombing had died. And then he died on January 16th. So once again, that kind of influenced Zach to want to do this rally, right? They influenced him by these stories that made him think of Oklahoma City and so on. And another thing that really sticks out with this January 16th thing, 116, is the fact that if you go back a year before on January 16th, 2021, that is when Zach went to Powell's bookstore in Portland, Oregon, and he got bear sprayed by Antifa, right? January 16th. Remember, Portland equals 116. That's the area where Zach is originally from. Oregon is the 33rd state. The word Powell's equals 33. Zach also went there to protest Andy No's book that was coming out on the 33rd day of the year. But what's interesting is Zach's book, Number Games, had also released on Amazon 3 months and 3 days before that, 33. And it was also the 16th day of the year, and in Gematria, if you write out 16 just so happens to equal 33. It's on the 16th day of the year. Him and Andy No's books released exactly 16 weeks apart. And also the word book equals 16, right? Book 16. 16 weeks apart from Andy No's book on the 33rd day of the year. He goes there and gets bear sprayed on the 16th day of the year. 3 months and 3 days after his own book comes out on Amazon. And if you write out the word 16, it equals 33. Powell's equals 33, the 33rd state. All about the number 33, right? Shortly after this, too, and there's more to this, too. Maybe I'll talk about it later. But shortly after this, Zach then made the video about how everyone is telling him he calls his girlfriend Sweet Lady, and how Sweet Lady equals 33. And then a couple days after this, there was the Myanmar coup, all synced by the numbers. And Sweet Lady is actually from Myanmar. So what are the odds? Sweet Lady 33. Then there's a story about Myanmar being overthrown and so on. And it was a month later, actually. It was a little over a month later. It was exactly 33 weeks after Zach's birthday. There was a story on Yahoo about, Winston. I can't remember his name. His name is Winston something from the band Mumford & Sons, and how he was like taking a break from the band because he supported Andy No. And I was like, I know it has to be connected to Zach. And I looked it up. It was 33 weeks after Zach's birthday. And Winston in Gematria equals 33. And this is something we've talked about for a number of years because of the book 1984 and the main character being named Winston, right? And George Orwell, of course, wrote the book 1984. And I don't know Sweet Lady. I didn't know her birthday. I don't know her real name, anything of the sort. And a few months later, Zach was doing a live stream on George Orwell's birthday, and he told us that it was also Sweet Lady's birthday. So what are the odds that Sweet Lady would be born on the same day as George Orwell? And if you look up George Orwell, he used to be from Myanmar or Burma, where she is from. And even one of his early books is even about Burma and Myanmar and so on. And that just so happens that birthday just so happens to be a span of 3 months and 3 days before the Jesuit anniversary. And there's a whole bunch of other things with Zach and the number 33. A lot of people consider him the master teacher in Gematria. Of course, the word teacher equals 33. The master teacher number is 33. His blog, the first ever blog post he made was on 10/24, which is 3 months and 3 days after his birthday, of all things, And this is also the day that Richard Hofstadter died. He's the guy who coined the term conspiracy theory. And oddly enough, Richard Hofstadter is also from Buffalo, New York. Tim Russert from Buffalo, New York. Richard Hofstadter from Buffalo, New York. Think about Zach. Gematria, people thinking it's conspiracy theory. Zach even started the website All for Truth in 2016. All for Truth, and it had the umbrella logo and so on. But he pledged for $33,000 even when he was 33 years old to get that website going, right? He's 33 years old. He's pledging for $33,000. And then All for Truth fell through and whatever, but it used the umbrella logo. And then a couple weeks later, the umbrella man threatened him, and then a car crashed into his garage. And I'll bring up the umbrella symbolism a little bit later because it really is important. It's really synced up to Zach, and there's a whole lot of umbrella symbolism that just goes back to him. Pretty sure that's why after the OKC rally, he randomly went to Dallas where JFK was assassinated, where the original umbrella man is from. Of course, Kennedy also equals 33, and think about how his brother died by Sirhan. Sirhan equals, Sirhan equals 33, and a bunch more. But the thing with All for Truth that I was saying with conspiracy theory too is that All for Truth began 218 days before Zach's birthday, and conspiracy theory equals 218. And Richard Hofstadter, this guy, he was born on August 6th, this big day I've been following, which is the 218th day of the year, and he died 2 months and 18 days after his birthday, and he coined the term conspiracy theory, and conspiracy theory equals 218. And this date is also really important too, August 11th, or September 11th, 9/11, and so on. Twin Towers equals 218, Osama bin Laden 218. It's the day the World Trade Center construction began. Though in 1968, the World Trade Center equals, 218 as well. Think about it, 6/8 or 8/6. This is the day leaving 68 days in the year. Zach used to go by Zachary K. Hubbard, that equals 68. This all has ties back to the CIA too, when CIA equals 68, so it's pretty interesting. But let's stick with the 33 stuff, just keep all this 33 stuff in mind. So then we get, Zach starts, he makes, on January 19th, he wants to go to have a rally in Oklahoma City then. And he just so happens to do this by making a 33-minute video. I don't know if I have the picture in here. I don't have the picture in here, but it was a 33-minute video that he wanted to start the OKC rally with. And January 16th, this day with about the bear spray and whatever, is 3 months and 3 days before 4/19, the big day with the Oklahoma City rally, right? January 16th to 4/19 is 3 months and 3 days. Then Zach makes a 33-minute video on January 19th talking about how he wants to have an Oklahoma City rally. And even more interesting is if you go from 4/19 to Zach's birthday, it just so happens to be a span of 3 months and 3 days. What are the odds of this? 3 months and 3 days. And now he's going to Buffalo on 5/21, which just so happens to be a span of 33 days after April 19th. And all of this is related because if you look up Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, he's actually from Lockport, New York, which is in the Buffalo area, right? It's in the Buffalo metro. It's kind of like, what are the odds? And then, of course, Timothy McVeigh died at the age of 33. And so did David Koresh. David Koresh also died at the age of 33. David Koresh, the Waco, Texas guy, right? 33. Even when Zach first got to Oklahoma City this year, or back in April, he's talking about how the band Primus was playing right next to his hotel, and Primus equals 33. And, they came out with this album called Conspiranoid, about conspiracy theory and so on. And there's more to it, because Primus equals 4/19 in the Fibonacci ciphers. And if you've been following what I've been showing for years, or since August, right when I put my book out or whatever, this cipher seems to be this new cipher that we're supposed to pay attention to. And the Fibonacci numbers are something that we're supposed to pay attention to. So it's interesting that it would equal 4/19, This whole thing is also linked up to football and the Super Bowl, and I know that's important to me somehow, because right around the same time that Zach decided to do the OKC rally, I had synchronicity with this word absolutely in the band 9 Days and a whole bunch of stuff, but absolutely, if I could spell it right here, absolutely equals 33. And the synchronicity that I had was on this old video that I made about Oklahoma City and the thunder on the date 3-3. And of course, thunder also equals 116, this big number. And my birthday is actually 3 months and 3 days before the Super Bowl began this year. And in the English extended cipher, my name equals 419. And I've been saying how the English extended cipher, whenever that number shows up within synchronicity, it's very important. And, what are the odds my name would equal 419 in the English extended cipher? There's something that I'm supposed to see with this. And if you go back to October, I was talking about the possibility of the Rams because I had synchronicity with SpongeBob. And then we got the Travis Scott shooting, or Crowd Crush. And Travis Scott was interesting because at Super Bowl 53, when the Rams lost in the Super Bowl, the halftime show was Travis Scott and also SpongeBob. So I was like, I wonder about the Rams, And then, like a week later, some guy added me on Facebook named Wilson Menendez. And let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Wilson Menendez. He added me on Facebook, or he friend requested me, and I noticed he had a few mutual friends, and he's from the town that's not too far away from where I live, so I was like, maybe he wants maybe he wants me to DJ his wedding or something, because I saw this girl here and all that. But the more I looked at it, he's wearing a SpongeBob shirt in this picture, and the SpongeBob shirt actually comes from the episode where SpongeBob played at the Super Bowl. It was called Band Geeks, and he played at Super Bowl 53 with Travis Scott. And this was right after the Travis Scott crowd crush and all that. And then this guy, friend requests me. And I ended up accepting him, but he's never mentioned anything. But it is literally the episode from the Super Bowl or whatever in 2019 with the Rams. So I knew that the Rams were important. And recall just after the Rams, after Zach announced this rally or whatever, or he wanted to do this rally, we then got the story about the Rams coach, Sean McVay, and this meme of his dad who's all buff or whatever, but his name is Tim McVay, right? It's like, what are the odds? Like, Timothy McVay, the Rams are going to be in the Super Bowl, and then Tim McVay is the guy's father. It's funny, even funnier too, the article that I clicked on, it had somebody making a joke about Skip Bayless, and if you look up Skip Bayless, guess where Skip Bayless is from? He's from Oklahoma City. Skip Bayless from Oklahoma City. So I was like, what is going on here? Tim McVay. And then you look even further, you start looking at the other coaches and whatnot. The Rams, or the Bengals coach, is a guy who was a coach for the Rams in 2019 when SpongeBob was the halftime show. And his name is Zach Taylor, reminding us of the president who died in office, Zachary Taylor, who also, this is interesting because, look up Zachary Taylor here. Zachary Taylor, he died on July 9th, which just so happens to be O.J. Simpson's birthday. And O.J. Simpson, of course, is played football with the Buffalo Bills. And this show, this grocery store, Tops Friendly Markets, actually opened on O.J. Simpson's birthday, too. And I get it. I get why people are connecting it to the Jesuits, right? Because this shooting was 56 days before, 56 days before O.J.'s birthday, and the store opened on, didn't it open on O.J. Simpson's 56th birthday or something? Yeah, I'm looking at Zach's post here. It opened on July 9th, 2003, O.J. Simpson's 56th birthday. And then this shooting happened 56 days before O.J.'s birthday. And also there was a Highway 33 right next to this, where this place is, right? Highway 33, of all places. So I understand all of these connections, and O.J. was also linked up to the Vegas shooting and a bunch of stuff. And that all had connections back to the Jesuits. I'm not saying that it's not connected, but the biggest thing I'm saying in this video about the way people connect stuff is there's a lot of times where people are just connecting it there when it doesn't have to be connected. There can be a connection like this, right? It seems obvious they're doing this 56 days or whatever, right? It seems like it's because they're pointing out, the connections to the Jesuits and so on. But a lot of people are just taking random things and making it fit to the Jesuits. And that just drives me crazy. And then they also completely ignore all of these other things that are going on within our own lives because they don't think that they matter, but they do matter, right? They do matter. And there's more to learn. You can't just stop and then just literally take every number and connect it to the cabal. But, back to the thing, the football coach for the Cincinnati Bengals is named Zach Taylor. And the president, Zach Taylor, just so happened to die on that, July 9th, O.J. Simpson's birthday. And look at Zach Taylor, too. Zach Taylor, he's actually from Norman, Oklahoma. What are the odds he's from Oklahoma? Norman, Oklahoma. And, when you think of the Cincinnati Bengals, you think of Boomer Esiason. And Boomer Esiason, think about Boomer Sooner, Oklahoma. But Boomer Esiason, his real name is actually Norman. Of all, Norman, Oklahoma. Norman, Boomer Sooner. And in Gematria, in Jewish Gematria, if you write out Cincinnati Bengals, there we go. Cincinnati Bengals, they equal 419 in the Jewish cipher. What are the odds Cincinnati Bengals would equal 419? And this was Zach made a ton of videos talking about the tiger symbolism and how it syncs up to the Super Bowl and the Cincinnati Bengals and whatever else. And, look at Joe Burrow here. Joe Burrow equals 116. That big number that was important to why he went to the OKC, right? And if you look up Zach and Joe Burrow, their birthdays are 4 months and 19 days apart even. So, these are the type of things I'm talking about. There's all of these interesting connections, and they already had these two teams perfectly aligned to go to the Super Bowl and everything else, right? And then they influenced Zach to want to start an OKC rally, and he does have the OKC rally. And of course, it was also like the Super Bowl was also 65 days after or before the OKC rally, like Oklahoma City equals 65, and a whole bunch of other things, all linked up. And then they gave us this Fred Meyer shooting, right, where Zach went to investigate and all that. And it's near where he lives. You also had Cooper Kupp, who was the MVP, and Cooper Kupp is from Yakima, where Zach is from. I mean, it's wild, and Fred Meyer, part of Kroger and all that. And think about Fred Meyer being the grocery store, and then think about how this Tops Friendly Markets was also the grocery store now. And Zach's going to go to Buffalo, where Timothy McVeigh was originally from, 33 days after the Oklahoma City rally and so on. It's just all perfectly aligned, and we need to pay attention to these things. But, and these grocery shootings were all about the number 322 with Skull and Bones, and then think about how Tim Russert is also from Buffalo, and, the guy who coined the term conspiracy theory also from Buffalo. Also, Zach's he's going there on Josh Allen's birthday, right? May 21st, just so happens to be the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills' birthday. And his name, Josh Allen, equals 33. He also played for Wyoming at college, the Buffalo. Now he plays for the Buffalo Bills. His birthday's May 21st, the day that Zach's going to first be there or whatever. May 21st, his name equals 33. And it's funny because I was watching a video and Zach was talking about this guy, Ray from New York, the other night. And right around the time of Zach talking about going to Oklahoma City, I had this comment on my old video from 2014 on this Key and Peele video, but it was a guy named Ray-NY, like New York. New York also equals 33, by the way. But Ray, so I was like, I wonder, I went back and looked at this post, Ray. But it was all about the show Key and Peele, and Key and Peele also equals 33. So there's definitely, you just can't make this up, But this May 21st date, important to the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, is important back to this Kroger or Fred Meyer shooting, because this Fred Meyer shooting happened on February 7th, which just so happens to be Matthew Stafford's birthday, the quarterback of the Rams who won the Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford. So this grocery store shooting that Zach went and tried to investigate or whatever near his house, it was on Matt Stafford's birthday. And if you look up Fred Meyer was founded on December 10th, which is Joe Burrow's birthday, the other quarterback in the Super Bowl, right? And also, this founded in Portland, Oregon, which is where Zach is, originally from and all that. Think about Zach getting bear sprayed and so on. The year before, Zach had went to LSU to educate people about Joe Burrow and LSU winning the championship and all that. So that's pretty interesting, too, to think about. This ties back to Portland and on Joe Burrow's birthday with Fred Meyer. And that's where we learned about Event 201 from this guy named Dr. Paul Cottrell, which is another interesting thing here because, let me see here, Paul Cottrell umbrella. If you go back and look at this guy, so Zach's in Louisiana, that equals 201 for one. He's in Louisiana, that equals 201. And then this guy, Dr. Paul Cottrell, who nobody in this community has ever heard of before, who went to Fordham, which is a Jesuit university, comes out of nowhere, gets Zach's phone number, starts calling him and telling him, trying to tell him about Event 201 while Zach's staying in room 201. And, of course, Dr. Paul Cottrell also equals 201. So it's like his name equals 201. Somehow he gets hold of Zach, trying to call Zach all about 201 while he's in Louisiana, that equals 201, staying at a hotel in room 201. And then, because of Zach was following coronavirus in relation to Revelation and so on, and Pope Francis was important, and he realized that, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, the Pope's real name, equaled 201, and then, this plethora of other things, like how he stayed in room 201 called the Domus Sanctae Marthae, that equals 201, and the list goes on. Ignatius of Loyola equals 201. Huge pattern with the Jesuits in 201. But what I really think happened was they influenced us to see this pattern and how the Jesuits were connected. And now they can just put stories in the news that have nothing to do with it, really. And everybody just, now all of a sudden they say 201, and it's just the Jesuits every single time, and they're missing this bigger piece to the puzzle. You know what I'm saying? Like, they influenced you to have this preconceived belief that every 201 has to mean the Jesuits now. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that. And it's interesting that, he goes, Dr. Paul Cottrell was from a Fordham University and so on. It just seems like that was all like planned, like it was manipulated for, and they wanted us to see this so we would continually follow this pattern, which makes me think that they want us to believe that it is the Jesuits. You understand what I'm saying? And while they are important, I think that it's something deeper than this. Or maybe it is the Jesuits trying to, toy with you. Or it's like they want to create a revolution of some sort, That's part of the whole reason they created this conspiracy movement, was they want people to somehow have some type of revolution. But the thing is that it's all going to happen by a code. And we're going to think that when that revolution happens, that we are in control. But really, it was all planned out by the people who are in power this whole time. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's people who rule the world, and they are creating this revolution that we want to create, and they are controlling it, and we think that we are in control, but we are not in control. That's why we need to learn more of why the world works this way, why we are connected to all these events as well, right? And a lot of people are just like, we don't need to know this. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. Can you see what I'm saying? It does matter. Look how ridiculously connected Zach is to the Super Bowl, to the OKC rally, now to the Buffalo thing. And what's even more interesting that makes me think this is Earlier in the video, I talked about how Zach was related to the umbrella symbolism. Clear back in 2016 when he started All for Truth. Let me just pull it up. I think I have it in my book here. I think I pulled it up in here. But Zach started All for Truth with the umbrella logo, right? Had the umbrella logo. And then shortly after, like a week later, 2 weeks later, I'm trying to think, it's like 9 days later, a guy named the Umbrella Man threatened Zach, and then a car crashed into his house on Christmas Eve, right? And that was all by the numbers. Like, so the Umbrella Man makes the video, and 186 days later, Zach's first ever channel gets deleted on the date June 28th. That was 186 days after this car crashed into his garage, after he was threatened by the Umbrella Man, after he started a website with the umbrella logo, right? And 628 is the day that leaves 186 days in the year. Of course, Zach then made one more episode of the Gematria effect after that on the 186th day of the year. Then he took a 2-week break. And there's other 186s too, such as how Donald Trump, who also went to Fordham University, his birthday is 186 days before Pope Francis's birthday. It's an important number to the Jesuit type theme, but look at Zach Hubbard. Zach Hubbard equals 186. Even in his book, he talks about how most of his life people called him Zach Hubbard, right? Zach Hubbard, 186. When he learned about Event 201, he was staying in room 201 at the Trim Hotel. It's called the Trim. The Trim equals 186. The Cooper Kupp even, right? Cooper Kupp, the MVP of the Super Bowl from Yakima. Look at his name, 186. But 628 is also Elon Musk's birthday, right? And Elon Reeve Musk equals 186. SpaceX equals 186. In relation to space and whatever, Zach was born on 7/21, the same day that Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. Look at Neil Armstrong, 186. Apollo 11, that he walked on, Apollo 11, 186. And, in relation to the space theme even, think about Jeff Bezos going to space and whatever. Jeff Bezos, 186, founded Amazon on the 186th day of the year. Think about, the autonomous zone with the George Floyd symbolism. Remember they had the Umbrella Man breaking out windows and it said autonomous zone here. And then all of a sudden they had this Capitol Hill autonomous zone in Seattle, the area where Zach lives, the area where coronavirus supposedly started in the United States and so on. The Capitol Hill autonomous zone that uses the umbrella logo. And then we had the Capitol Hill insurrection 212 days later. And I think Seattle, Washington, or just Seattle, one or the other, equals 212. It was all linked up to this. Capitol Hill, the Capitol Hill insurrection. Zach got bear sprayed right around that time, and he got bear sprayed 186 days before his birthday. And this was like stupidly, Zach was stupidly synced up to that Capitol Hill thing. Remember the cop who died named Brian Sicknick? He also got bear sprayed, the only person I've ever heard of getting bear sprayed in my life before Zach getting bear sprayed or whatever. And he died like 170 days after Zach's birthday, and Zach got bear sprayed 186 days after his birthday, and Zach's full name equals 186, just like the word moon in Jewish gematria equals 170, and think about Zach's birthday and so on. Then we had like the Myanmar coup that was synced up to his girlfriend, right? And one of the ladies who got overthrown was born on the 170th day of the year. And I think that Myanmar coup was like 170 days before or after Zach's birthday. And then just right after that, Zach got a strike on his main channel on the same day of the Super Bowl, I think it was, 201 days after his birthday. And, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl, equal 170. Tom Brady equals 170. Whole bunch of 170 stuff, but and think about Capitol Hill and think about the Francis Bacon ciphers and how they use capital letters and the importance of capital letters. If you go back to 2019, I had synchronicity with Mary Poppins back in March, and think about Mary Poppins, the umbrella, and I knew there was something important to the Umbrella Man again, threatening Zach and so on. And a few days later, Zach's live stream got hacked with porn or whatever, and it was all linked with the Francis Bacon ciphers and a bunch of stuff. And they gave his channel a strike. Again, on that time, they gave his channel a strike until the date 6/28, the day leaving 186 days of the year. So once again, I knew there was something to put this umbrella symbolism. And then in 2019, the big thing that we were following was the Tisha B'Av event, right? On August 11th, August 10th, August 11th. And the big thing that happened that day was the riots in Hong Kong, China, that was important to the umbrella riots, right? And we also got a story right around that same time about some guy who got struck by lightning holding an umbrella. They were doing an umbrella thing, and that was in the autonomous zone of China, Hong Kong, right? And then think about the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and synced up to the Capitol Hill insurrection. And, think of how this is autonomous zone here with the George Floyd stuff. And, around that Tisha B'Av time, too, I was talking a lot about the capital letters and the Francis Bacon ciphers, and I knew that they were doing something just like 2016 because of Jeopardy. So in 2016, around the time that the Umbrella Man threatened Zach and so on, I was following this big pattern with Jeopardy and so on, and this guy named James Jumper, JJ, had started a blog mocking my blog, and his name equaled 166 in reverse gematria. And I'm trying to think here. We didn't know reverse gematria at that time, right? And he started a blog literally because of my Jeopardy posts, and he referred to me as NAD, my name in reverse, DAN, NAD in reverse, And then there was this big connection. My uncle had died right after that, and my uncle's name equaled 166, and he was important to the Flintstones because his name was Betty, or Barney, and his wife was Betty, like the Flintstones. They aired 166 episodes and a whole bunch of stuff with 166, right? Turns out reverse gematria, right? Like how James Jumper equals 166, reverse gematria equals 166. And then we started learning all these patterns with, a new cipher and how the reverse was important. And then the Umbrella Man made a video about the number 166, 166 days after my birthday that year. And I was watching this pattern with the angel Gabriel, and I wondered if there'd be a truth seeker named Mary that was important. And then at that Gematria effect, a lady named Mary Toffelmeyer called in, and her name equaled 166. And she was talking about how she was the Umbrella Man's next victim, and he was trying to kill her pet pig. And it was funny because when I was listening to that, I was sitting next to a stuffed animal pigs on the couch because my daughter told me to watch them, the stuffed animal, and she called it her pet, and it was a pet pig. And this lady named Mary, and I'm watching for a lady named Mary to call in, or just, in general, then this lady named Mary calls in, her name's 166, talking about her pet pig while I'm sitting next to my daughter's stuffed animal pig that she called a pet. It's like, what are the odds of all this? And it all involves 166. But moral of the story is that all of that was stemmed back to Jeopardy, and then we learned a new cipher. And then in 2019, while we were following the Tisha B'Av event, Alex Trebek announced that he had cancer. And then there was the big craze with the guy named Jeopardy James, JJ, right? So I was like, I wonder if the Tisha B'Av event is just synced up to some new, cipher that we're supposed to pay attention to or learn, And as the time went on, I realized that it was the Francis Bacon ciphers that kept syncing up to all of this, And I was also paying attention to the Julian calendar because Julian Edelman had won the MVP of the Super Bowl. And then I was also following the Ides of March due to the Austin bomber from the year before and a bunch of stuff. And we got that Christchurch, New Zealand attack on the Ides of March, Julius Caesar, Julian calendar, Julian Edelman. Then Julian Assange got arrested, and we had a story about Julian Castro and a bunch of stuff. It was telling us to pay attention to the Julian calendar. And the Julian calendar date of August 11th was August 24th. And in 2016, another big thing that they were doing was it was trying to create some type of division within our Gematria truth community, right? I could feel that. And on August 24th, Derek, who made the Gematria calculator, he made a video talking about how he was going to go to Anarchadelphia, and it caused this big old rift, and it's still really never been the same, right? They don't even They don't like each other anymore, right? So there was a rift. And what's interesting is on that same day, August 24th, we got the news that Andrew Luck of the Colts was retiring from the NFL. And in 2016, the day that Zach's a car crashed into his garage, the Colts were knocked out of the playoffs, and Andrew Luck and the Colts were knocked out, and that was the team Zach had thought was going to be in the Super Bowl. And everybody was saying that they flipped the script, and then we learned reverse gematria, flipping the script, reverse gematria. It was all like perfectly mapped out. We were actually supposed to learn reverse gematria. I know it sounds like it's this bad thing and all these bad things are going on, but they were actually teaching us something. If you really paid attention, we actually learned a lot more about gematria because of that event, or it linked into that event. And the same thing happened with the Francis Bacon ciphers. And I'm just pointing this out because, like how Louisiana equaled 201, and this was right after that Tisha B'Av event. Look what Anarchadelphia equals. Anarchadelphia also equals 201. And that's what Derek and Zach, that video that Derek made, it's pretty much where it all stemmed back to. Anarchadelphia, 201. So, it's definitely important. Especially when you think about, once again, Zach going to LSU in Louisiana, that equals 201. Talking about Joe Burrow and they're winning the championship. And then we got Tiger, that equals 201. And think how the Tiger symbolism was linked up to the Super Bowl and Tiger King and all this other stuff of the last 2 years, all linked up to everything that's going on with the 201. But the moral of the story, I guess, with a lot of this, and I need to explain a few more things really quick, but Dr. Paul Cottrell, when he first made, when he first wanted to make these videos with Zach, he made this video with Zach and he called him Patriot Zach. And notice he used the umbrella in his thumbnail. And yeah, you could say, yeah, that's because of coronavirus and Resident Evil and so on, but it's still pretty interesting that it would be an umbrella, and just regardless, the umbrella symbolism. And in regards to 186, the original Umbrella Man came from the JFK assassination, right? And his name was Louis Witt. That equals 186. Even if he had his middle name, Louis Stephen Witt. 186. He was the original Umbrella Man that was at the JFK assassination. That's where the Umbrella Man actually stems back to, right? Think about how that syncs up to Zach here. The umbrella symbolism. It's lots of interesting, it's just interesting. And then Rambo's talking about, Fritz Springmeier and the umbrella representing mind control. And then all of these things that Zach's doing are all by the numbers, all synced up to the Super Bowl, all synced up to all of these other events. Just, you really need to think about this. And the day after the Oklahoma City rally, Zach then went to Dallas and he went to the, where JFK was assassinated and all that, right? Let's pull it up really quick, but he goes to Dealey Plaza right after the OKC rally. And once again, I'm not saying that it was all planned by him, but it's all linked up to the same symbolism that I have been talking about for a number of years, right? And if you went from April 20th, the day that he went, to the JFK assassination, it was 216 days. And the Umbrella Man, his name equals 216. And it's also the 120th day of the year. The word umbrella is 120. The word president's 120. Think about JFK. The word Jesuit also equals 120 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. Remember the Pope who died just after the Jesuits were formed. He died 1 month and 10 days after the Jesuits were formed, I think. Oh, I wrote that in there. Never mind. 1 month and 10 days. Yeah, the Jesuits were created 1 month and 10 days before Pope Clement died. Also, if you go from the JFK assassination to April 20th, it's 149 days, or also 4 months, 29 days. If you write out Umbrella Man, it equals 429. If you write out Zachary K. Hubbard, 149, right? So no doubt, he even visited the JFK assassination where the original Umbrella Man began, synced up by the numbers. And that same day, we got this story about a parachute over the Washington Nationals game, and they had to evacuate the U.S. Capitol. What are the odds? They had to evacuate the U.S. Capitol that day? Or I guess that was the day of the Oklahoma City thing. So I wrote the day before yesterday, so. They were playing the Diamondbacks, who won the World Series after 9/11. This year I've been following August 6th a whole lot, right? August 6th, because of Tisha B'Av and 9/11 and a bunch of other stuff, but that's the 186th day of the Chinese Tiger Year, too. So that's another reason why I've been saying I think it's important. Because it will be the 53rd anniversary of the moon landing, and if you write out Tisha B'Av, it equals 53. And NASA was founded on International Tiger Day. And think about the tiger symbolism, the Chinese Tiger Year. I'm trying to think, August 6th is also 15 days after Zach's birthday. And the word moon equals 15. Just like how Neil Armstrong died 1 month and 5 days after the anniversary of the moon landing. Right after that Batman shooting, right? All synced up to this big space narrative that I've been following. Which, also links up to all this stuff. How, like, Sean Connery died on Halloween, which is the same day that Michael Collins, another Apollo 11 astronaut, was born. That was his birthday. And Sean Connery's birthday was the same day that Neil Armstrong died, Apollo 11. So Sean Connery was born on the same day Neil Armstrong died. And then he dies on the same day Michael Collins dies. And Michael Collins died 186 days before his own birthday. And in 2017, a big thing, right after the Umbrella Man and the Zach's car crash and all that, a big thing that I was actually talking about Eugene Cernan, and then Eugene Cernan died. And he died 186 days before Zach's birthday because he died on the same day in history that Zach got bear sprayed, January 16th. So 186 is definitely a number that's really connected to the space narrative, but also to the umbrella narrative, and the umbrella is interesting when you think about blocking the sun and eclipses too, in regards to the moon. So I'm just more interested in the fact that Rambo is always talking about how it's, connected to mind control. And then I see all of these things, how Zach's connected to it. And he's doing all these things that are related to these big events that are going on. And, it's interesting. Some other, another interesting thing in relation to this going to Buffalo, right? And there was that subway shooting that was 33 days before the Buffalo shooting, like a span of 33 days. And that shooting was on the anniversary of the Civil War beginning. And just thinking about this connection to Abraham Lincoln, the or to JFK, the assassinated president, and Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War, the assassinated president. And then you have Zachary Taylor, who died on 7/9, the same day that the Friendly Market store opened. He also was a president who died in office. And William McKinley, another assassinated president, he was assassinated at the World's Fair in Buffalo. And what's interesting is that with that parachute thing and evacuating the Capitol on 4/19, synced up to, the OKC rally and all that. Remember the Washington Nationals used to be called the Montreal Expos, which is a fair, right? Expo is a fair, and they ended up winning the World Series in 2019. And I was talking all about the fair symbolism that was linked to Tisha B'Av with the band Slipknot, and how China was hosting the World's Fair. And then on August 11th, we got the major story was about China. And there's definitely something important to that. I have to look at the World Fairs again, but, they evacuated the Capitol building Or the Capitol, in the Washington Nationals game was evacuated or whatever, and then, just thinking about it, just think about it, right? That's interesting. You evacuate in the Capitol on that same day, and then they're synced up to the fair symbolism, and William McKinley was assassinated at the Buffalo World Fair, and James Garfield, in relation to that subway shooting, James Garfield was assassinated by getting shot at the train station, another president who died in office. So there definitely just seems to be like a pattern with, you know, uh, assassinated presidents and whatever. And I've talked about this stuff for a long time too. The World's Fair with William McKinley being assassinated because then Teddy Roosevelt, he gave this a speech about carrying the big stick in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. And remember, just after Obama visited William McKinley High School or whatever, then we got in Baton Rouge, Louisiana or whatever, named after the red stick of the Homa people. Just after that, Obama gave a speech at McKinley High School there. And then we had Alton Sterling and then Philando Castile. And Alton Sterling was in Baton Rouge and Philando Castile was in Falcon Heights. And think about McKinley High School in Baton Rouge and then Falcon Heights, where Teddy Roosevelt gave this speech about carrying a big stick. And, Roosevelt was the president after McKinley got assassinated or whatever. So it's just interesting. That was also part of the reason why I thought the Indians were going to be in the World Series too, because, Buffalo and Native Americans and notice if you go from May 21st to Kamala Harris's birthday, it's 152 days. Also 4 months, 29 days. Like how Umbrella Man equals 429. The Gematria effect equals 152. Kamala Devi Harris 152. Baton Rouge 152. Joe Biden 152. JFK and the Fibonacci cipher 152. All for Truth 152. Buffalo 152. That Simpsons episode where Lisa is the president, the woman president after Donald Trump, or whatever, that came out 152 days after Kamala's birthday. And Baton Rouge is interesting because on Inauguration Day, Kamala Harris wore that purple suit that looked like the Lisa Simpson episode where she became the president or whatever. And the guy who designed that was from Baton Rouge, right? So Baton Rouge, 152. Kamala Devi Harris, Joe Biden, Buffalo. Flat Earth also equals 152. Think about Rob Skiba, who died in connection to Zach earlier this year. That Simpsons episode came out 141 days or 4 months and 19 days before 8/6. 521 is the 141st day of the year. 521 will be 1 year, 4 months, 1 day since Biden took office. 141. And in relation to that Tisha B'Av event, the 141st prime number is also 811, right? So, I don't know. OKC 52, Oklahoma City 52, President 52. Makes me think of that Jake Angeli guy that wore the horned buffalo hat at the Capitol insurrection too. Tops Friendly Markets 110, like president. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be an assassination, this weekend, but I bet you anything this event will be connected to when Joe Biden dies. I'll just guarantee it. Whenever that is, I've been watching the date 6/4 a lot because of the Dream theme and the Amtrak theme, but August 6th, I'm telling you, it is very, very important, especially being the 186th day of the Tiger year. There's all these connections, I really just want more people to just really pay attention to everything and don't just pay attention to a piece of what's going on. Look at everything, examine everything and think more about what you're showing. Don't always just assume that, oh yeah, it's just the Freemasons because of the number 33 or just, you know what I mean? Like, I just want people to really grasp that there's this deeper relationship if you really pay attention and you see how your life is connected, and you see how other things are related that don't necessarily even have anything to do with the cabal, you know. But in the end of the day, I really think there is a cabal that knows how to influence you, you know, unless it's all just fate. Because sometimes I figure out, you know, I'll be following a pattern in my life and it will then be related to a news story that is obviously fake and coded by the numbers, you know. But without that story, I wouldn't have realized the pattern. So it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like fate that, like, even the people who are manipulating stories, it seems that they're supposed to be manipulating the stories just for the purpose that I will see that story, you know? And maybe they're using me to create chaos magic and synchronicities and so on. Maybe, you know, who knows? I don't know. But what I do know is if it is all fate, then that means that even people who are coding stories, all of that was meant to be, you know? And it seems that way a lot of times, that it is all just synchronicity and coded and so on. But then at the same time, you see like hidden eye, all-seeing eyes and movies and everything else. You know that there's some type of cabal that exists, and you see these things. You see that there's an agendas of certain things, you know, within news stories without even using gematria and numbers, you know. So I just want more people to think, you know, and don't always just assume everything every 47 means, you know, the Freemasons did it. Don't assume every 201 means that the Jesuits are behind the story, you know, because once again, there's more to it that needs to be worked out, you know. And sure, you might not be connected to every single story that's in the news, right? But surely there's something that you're drawn to and something that is connected to what's going on in your life, you know? I see synchronicities every day with my coworkers, and I'll look them up and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. It's this many days after their birthday, you know, and they don't even care, you know, but I do. And I see it with my daughter. It's, you know, it's like all over the place. Like, it's everywhere. It's not just me that this is happening to. It's just that most people choose not to pay attention to it or look more into it. You know what I mean? So I can't even remember where I was even going with some of this stuff now. Elon Musk, Timothy McVeigh from the Buffalo area. I mean, it's unbelievable. Even the Buffalo Bills were knocked out of the playoffs 186 days after Zach's birthday too, which is the same day I got that comment from that Ray guy, Ray New York or NY, that's synced up to this. So you know, it's interesting too in regards to like 116 and 611, like the day that Timothy McVeigh died, because May 21st, tomorrow, is 6 months and 11 days after my birthday. And if you write out the Gematria effect, it also equals 611, I mean. So it just stands out to me. I've had a lot of synchronicity with the Gematria effect over the years, you know. The Gematria effect, 611, 6 months, 11 days after my birthday. And that's actually where this Ray guy was talking. That's where Zach mentioned uh, the Ray from New York guy, right? I just randomly turned it there and he's talking about Ray from New York. And I had just recently been going through my old posts about Buffalo. And I was like, that one person who left a comment was Ray NY. So I was like, I wonder if there's something important to this, you know. And then 6 months, 11 days after my birthday, the Gematria effect equals 611. I'll have to go back and re-listen. I didn't even listen to that whole Gematria effect, I guess. I'll have to go back and listen to it. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to hear in there. Jeff Young also equals 186 in the Francis Bacon ciphers. And when Zach's porn hack happened, I believe it was on Jeff Young's birthday, you know? And 521 is the day that the Megadeth uh, drummer Nick Menza died, or whatever. I think in 2016. So my video that the Ray person commented on, it, I put it out 63 days before January 23rd, the day that Buffalo got knocked out of the playoffs. And think about just the word Ray, right? Raymond, Ray, racism. That equals 63. Ray 63. Raymond 36. The Bills will be playing in their 63rd season coming up. The current mayor is the 62nd mayor, but he's 63 years old. So maybe the next mayor will be really important. Buffalo's 36-63. Bills 36. Megadeth 36-63. Just think about a mega death. Presidential assassinations. The reason, too, that I've been talking a lot about the drowning symbolism with that horse narrative, and that was all stemmed back to Chigozie making a video about the band Drowning Pool that I had synchronicity with and a whole bunch of stuff. But Jeff Young was the one who asked him to make that video about the death of the lead singer of Drowning Pool. And that's why I just think it's important. And then, all these other connections to Zach, and then, the one semi-famous guy that is in the community, he has a connection to 186. It's like, what are the odds? And he just recently met with the Megadeth guys again and all that, so. Megadeth. Of course, you also have Larry Johnson, who's 42 years old. Remember he did an interview with Zach right after whatever it was in 2020, around the time of when he went to Louisiana and all that. But he waited until January 22nd to do the interview with Zach, which was 64 days after his birthday. It was just before the Kansas City Chiefs were in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, and can't remember what it is. Kansas City Chiefs equals 64, 49ers equals 64. Kansas City equals 122, like the date 122. San Francisco equals 122, like the date 122. 11 days before the Super Bowl, the 11th prime is 31, Chiefs 31. Chiefs going to win the Super Bowl. Larry Johnson, the former Chief, started talking about Gematria on the same day as Event 201. All by the numbers. It's like just the stupidest thing. But he's 42 years old right now. It's interesting. Black people at 42. Here, Tim Russert. A lot of the super, Antonio Brown was linked up to Skull and Bones. Earlier this year, we had the Gabby Petito thing that was linked up to the Detroit Lions and Justin Tucker's longest field goal or whatever. And I'm just pointing that out, with the Skull and Bones narrative. Gabby Petito was really important to the Skull and Bones. Detroit Lions were important because of Matthew Stafford. And the year before, the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay was held on Matthew Stafford's 33rd birthday. And he was from Tampa, and then Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. Synced up to the tiger symbolism. Just interesting. Tim Russert from Buffalo. And May 21st to August 6th, 77 days. It makes me think of 9/11 too, right? Flight 77 hitting the 77-foot tall Pentagon. Just trying to think here, reading what I wrote in here. Also, we got like the Will Smith stuff too, right? Sidney Poitier, or however you can't remember how to say his name, but this guy, the guy who pretended to be his son in real life, he's from Buffalo. Or born in Buffalo, so David Hampton. Grover Cleveland, the president who served 2 non-consecutive terms, making us think of Donald Trump possibly, right? But he was the mayor of Buffalo at one point. He was the 35th mayor of Buffalo. I'm not sure if this is that the day that he quit being the mayor of Buffalo, November 20th, 1880. So Joe Biden's birthday. It must be because this guy shows him in there too. So, huh? So he's the mayor of Buffalo until November 20th. Think about Donald Trump too, and the connection to Cleveland and his national convention being in Cleveland. There's a ton of other things going on too. I recently mentioned how I kind of had a synchronicity with my friend who's half Cuban and whatever. And I noticed there was a post that he had like tagged me in or liked that I wrote from like 15 years ago or something. And I thought maybe Lil Wayne, it was about Lil Wayne. So I thought maybe Lil Wayne might be important. And then I was watching the Mavericks and was the game 7 of the Mavericks and Phoenix. And right when I turned it there, they zoomed in on Lil Wayne at this basketball game. I had no idea he's even attending these games, right? And they zoomed in on him and started talking about Lil Wayne and whatever else. And I'm like, what are the odds? And then I started thinking about how the Dallas Mavericks, the owner is Mark Cuban, and my friend's half Cuban. And Cuba was really important in 2019 to the horse symbolism when the plane skidded off the runway in Florida that was coming back from Guantanamo Bay. And then I looked up the movie Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay, and there's a Slipknot mask in there, and that Slipknot member had just got kicked out of the band, and then Slipknot was important to the Iowa State Fair symbolism. But Sid Wilson, that's the reason why I looked it up, because Sid Wilson, the DJ or whatever in Slipknot, he's actually having a baby with Kelly Osbourne. And my friend Fonzo is actually friends with Sid Wilson, and he'd been to his house and held his Grammy and a bunch of other stuff, and I mean, it's just weird. And, then all that stuff with the Guantanamo Bay stuff, synced up to Cuba, my friend who's half Cuban, the Slipknot mask in the movie Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Then I think Lil Wayne's important. Then, of course, he's at the Mavs game, and they're owned by Mark Cuban. And then, we also have this movie called Top Gun Maverick coming out. It's going to come out while the Warriors and the Mavericks series is going on. Top Gun Maverick. It's got to be kidding me. So, whatever. I'll leave it there. There's all kinds of other stuff going on. I really just want more people to just open their minds to this knowledge. Pay attention to the things around them, because we're not going to solve the problem by just going and causing, doing rallies and everything else. It doesn't fix it, because we're all still connected to it. And it seems that we're all being kind of manipulated and controlled still. Even though we think we're awake because we understand Gematria, or understand that Gematria exists, I don't think that we're as awake as a lot of people think we are, You gotta realize that whatever's going on, whatever the cabal is, it's been ruling the world for thousands of years. And we're not just going to come in and just, they already know. It's already like, they obviously already know that all of these things were like meant to be, or they're creating them to happen this way, And people need to be aware of this. That everything is related, So, whatever. I'm going to leave it there. I probably missed a bunch of stuff. I'll leave a bunch of notes if I missed a whole bunch of stuff. I'll re-listen to this video before I post it and leave notes. But you get the gist of it. Tunnel 33, but... Oh, you know what? I know what. One other thing I wanted to point out with January 16th. A big thing with January 16th is that it's also John Carpenter's birthday. And he's the guy who wrote the movie They Live, right? John Carpenter. It's his birthday. I was like, oh, I bet he's from Buffalo. But the movie They Live, right? All about how Roddy Piper has the glasses, can see the truth of the world and so on. He ends up shooting up the news station. But remember, right after the RV bombing, this movie is really important because the shooter looked a lot like Roddy Piper, and RV Truth, the channel on the internet, has him as the logo and so on. And I was watching for the date January 9th or January 19th because of the number 19 and this big pattern that I was following with my YouTube video getting struck and restricted and deleted like the prior year. And lo and behold, on January 9th, Zach did a video with RV Truth. And RV Truth's some guy who made a bunch of videos saying the car crash into his house was set up and staged and so on. I was like, why in the world is Zach doing a live stream with this RV Truth guy, you know? And just a whole bunch of stuff. I have a video. You can check out the video, the RV symbolism videos that I have. But the point I'm trying to make is that right now we're currently in the 33rd anniversary of this movie coming out, right? So came out on November 4th, 1988, which was 33 years ago. And John Carpenter born on January 16th. Plus this movie has all the connections, you know, and also April 19th is important because if you go back and look, RV Truth, actually the channel that he did the live stream with Zach on, he started that channel on April 19th. And, channel 54, right? The 54th prime number is 251. And that Capitol Hill insurrection was all about the numbers 251 and whatever, so. It just stands out, 33 years, and then now all of a sudden we're doing these, going to Oklahoma City, going to Buffalo, trying to get something going, talking about how the media is lying and whatever else, 33 years into the They Live coming out. Of course, They Live equals 218. It's important to August 6th. That RV symbolism is really important to Batman and the Batman shooting as well. Batman important to the number 86 and August 6th. Batman important to Skull and Bones. Just had George Bush in the news for his gaffe about saying that it was an unjustified invasion of Iraq, even though he meant to say of Ukraine or whatever. George Bush will be 76 years old this year on 7/6. Tiger equals 76. Sylvester Stallone's birthday. A lot of 68 symbolism with the Buffalo stuff and OKC and 9/11. So. Plus, right around the time that Roddy Piper died, he died on July 31st, and this year we got that SummerSlam's going to be on July 30th, and it's synced up to that peacock symbolism, and WrestleMania 38, and They Live equals 38. Ronda Rousey's really important to the Roddy Piper. Talk about that. It'll be the 34th anniversary this year, which that's what I'm really paying attention to because Ronda Rousey is all about the number 34. And that'll be on November 4th. 411 Elm Street, JFK. That's why Freddy Krueger and Johnny Depp were important in the news. We just had Fred Ward die. And then think about Kevin Bacon and the connection to Friday the 13th. So, I better stop talking here. Hold on. I gotta answer this phone call, so we'll just end it here. Have a good one. Peace.